Under the making this loop over here, where they've been to Tomoko, Okinawa, then Taiwan, Luzon, Leyte Gulf. The Leyte Gulf is the largest lake in the industry. We had 263 warships, so the Japanese had 67. This is the swan song. If they couldn't stop us here, they lost the war. Well, Admiral Halsey was aboard this ship, and he was in charge of Task Force 7. They call that Taffy 7 because it's easier to say over the radio, and you're not going to mix up anything else. About a third of the ships, it's 60, 70 so on. Well, his task is to guard the San Bernardino Straits here to land the troops on there. He's over there doing that, and you heard about the Japanese fleet up north. It was Admiral Rizal's fleet. He said, I better take care of that fleet. So I'm not bothering to tell anybody you left a residual force here and chase that fleet, which is the decoy fleet that worked. Well, the residual force that left there was 6 escort carriers, CVEs they call them, small carriers, 4 destroyers, and 3 destroyer escorts. A destroyer weighs about as much as one of the gun turrets on this ship. Destroyer escorts are smaller. Well, the Japanese had the fleet coming from the south. They had 4 battleships, including Yamato. They had 6 heavy cruisers, 4 light cruisers, and 10 destroyers. There's no way this residual force is going to stop them, except for the fact they did. How'd they do that? Well, there was a nice big thunderstorm. Line of thunderstorms parked here. That's a good thing. Japanese radar wasn't that good. They couldn't see through the thunderstorms with enough fidelity to make a fire solution for their big guns. Otherwise, it would have sunk the carriers. So carriers, turned tail around and got behind these thunderstorms. They had launched planes out and just attacked battleships. The Taffy 2 was up here. And this sent a lot of planes too, which would probably turn the tide. The destroyers and destroyer escorts we had were told go for the heavies, in other words, attack the heavy and light cruisers. Well, that's kind of a tall order, but they did it. One of our destroyers fired a torpedo and blew the bow off the heavy cruiser. It didn't sink and they did put it out of commission. On the other side over here, another American destroyer fired a torpedo with a Japanese destroyer. The torpedo went under the destroyer and took out a light cruiser. These guys couldn't buy a gasket by this time. Anyway, the Japanese admiral, his fleet had stopped here because he couldn't get past the carriers and stuff. Well, he was beginning to get very worried that Admiral Halsey figured out he'd chased the decoy fleet to come back and sink his ships, which he could have done. But he had managed to sink 2 of the escort carriers, 3 of the destroyers and 1 of the destroyer escorts. Total loss of life for the Americans was about 1,200 men. There were a lot left alive still in the water. And the Japanese admiral turns his fleet around and sails right by the guys in the He comes up on the deck and salutes them. They kicked his butt. So they had to show some respect.